Thank you so very much for being back. And if you just joined us, Enterprise Morning, it is reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's head straight to our conversation for this morning. The Senate had passed the Electoral Act of 2022 Repeal and Re-enactment Amendment Bill 2026, but rejected a proposal to make electronic transmission of election results mandatory. The bill was approved after its third reading following pressure from the media and stakeholders. Lawmakers voted down an amendment to Clause 63 that sought to compel INEC to officials that is, to transmit polling units results electronically to the IReV portal in real time. Senate President Godswill Akpabio said the Senate retained the result transmission procedure already provided in 2022 Act, which allows INEC to prescribe the method. The Senate also rejected a proposed 10-year jail term for buyers and sellers of permanent voters' card, retaining a 2-year sentence while increasing the fine from 2 million to 5 million naira. Let's get talking. Emeka Madnago is still here with me. Emeka, that is the biggest, strangest story happening today in Nigeria. Almost every newspaper house, the new media, traditional media, is talking about this. Lots of people are calling it Nigeria gradually moving towards what Cameroonians observe under Paul Biya and Ugandans observe under Museveni. What's your take?
I'm not surprised. I knew it was going to happen. Look, I would have been shocked if it turned out the other way. I would have been shocked. Because you see this Senate, this National Assembly, has not shown any. In fact, they are worse than that of Ahmad Lawan, where we call them rubber stamp. In fact, these ones, I don't know what we'll call them. Because rubber stamp is too serious a word to use for them. These guys they don't have the interests of Nigeria at heart. They don't have the interests of the country at heart. I knew they were going to do this because even they themselves don't want to be thrown out of the political system. Because it will also affect them.
Yes.
Now, when we don't have patriots in our political system, and that is a sad thing. What we have are people who are interested in just enjoying their positions without taking on the responsibilities expected from such. Look at what was Godswill Akpabio actually talking about. It was just being funny that they retained electronic transmission as prescribed by the Commission. That's a silly joke. It's an insult. Because what he's talking about is in the back page of INEC's guidelines for elections. That is, there is a section called guidelines, guidelines for the conduct of elections.
Okay.
By INEC. At the back. So that's where you have electronic transmission and all of that. And we saw what happened when it was time to use the IReV to transmit the 2023 presidential election. They said there were 13,000 attempts on the IReV. How did that happen? And then eventually the Supreme Court said, well, it didn't matter. So when we continue, as long as we continue to deceive ourselves, we cannot complain that Nigeria, that things are difficult. People pretend, I had an argument with some fellows yesterday. That thing was, I said, please tell me the things he has done. Let's start. One of them said that the Naira is stabilized. I said, which Naira? Something that was at 750, and Tinubu came, deliberately devalued it by over 1,000% so that he could go on a reckless borrowing spree. If it's a stabilized, let it come back to 750. Then we know he's in business. But something that was almost at 2,000 came down to 1,004. And you say it has stabilized. How? It was not at 1,004. Let him return it. Because there was no basis for floating the Naira. There was no basis other than that Tinubu wanted to borrow recklessly. There was no basis for him to have said subsidy is gone because there was no subsidy in the first place. What was happening was that NNPC was using the money it was supposed to be remitting to the Federation account as under recovery. And then that was what they called subsidy. But governors had been threatening to go to court, to go to the Supreme Court, to demand, to get, a judicial order for NNPC to return the money, to the federation account. Now, instead of Tinubu to have handled that sensitive conversation, as a statesman, he chose to play to the gallery and said subsidy is gone. Then later, now, lied to Nigerians. I say it with all sense of responsibility. Lied to Nigerians that subsidy had been removed. There was no subsidy removed. Eventually, the same Naira they floated, they were defending the Naira. They've been spending money on defending the Naira. The same subsidy, they said they went through the back door and made extra provision. And were paying the subsidy through the back door. Why? In order to retain the importation of fuel. To retain the importation of fuel. So, what are we talking about exactly? When they are talking about this electronic transmission, I'm not surprised.
But Godswill Akpabio has stated that he didn't not change anything and asked Nigerians not to jump on the bandwagon.
Which bandwagon?
Because he said that presiding officers are to submit results of their polling units in accordance to what is stated by the commission.
So what is stated by the commission? Just that the booklet is not here. And I read it to you. As prescribed by the commission. It prescribes nothing. Prescribes nothing. He said it's the collecting officer that will have the, that will have the discretion, on how it should go. And let me tell you, the rigging doesn't start. The rigging, rigging, which is a major problem in elections in Nigeria. In some places, it starts at the polling units. But in some places, it is when they go to the collation center. That is where figures are changed. That of Rivers State, the Rivers State result, remains clear. INEC put it on the IReV that it was Peter Obi who won the Rivers State presidential election the presidential election in Rivers State. But eventually it was declared for Bola Tinubu. That of Lagos was because there was pressure on them. And I think the people, who were in Lagos were God-fearing people. That's why they actually declared that Peter Obi won. Peter Obi won in Lagos, he won in Rivers, he won in Benue, he won in Plateau. He won in Ebonyi. He won across. Peter Obi won the 2023 election. Yeah, let people argue all they like. Don't engage them. All they should do, we've told them, go and publish what is on your back end, the back end of your servers. Even some of the results are not on INEC's website anymore. Go and publish what is on the back end. What was on the back end, what you recorded on the back end of your servers. Bring the result from all the polling units across Nigeria, all the 190,000 polling units across Nigeria. Let them be tendered for forensic examination. And we cannot rely on the judiciary in Nigeria because they have a penchant for throwing out cases on flimsy grounds, for throwing out cases on technical grounds. We're not talking about it. We're talking about the destiny of a country. A country of 230 million people. We cannot subject their future to technicalities. But what did we see? There was nothing to show that these people, this set of people in the National Assembly, were ready, are ready now to give up. Look at all the delays they did in 2019. Because then President Muhammad Buhari was not ready to sign it. He was not ready to sign it. And he didn't sign it. He said he came too late, which was just rubbish, nonsense. Look at the Police Amendment Act, which the National Assembly rushed in one day and passed, just so that they could extend the tenure of Egbetokun, Kayode Egbetokun, as the Inspector General of Police. And then an Electoral Act, which has to do with the destinies of millions of Nigerians, 230 million Nigerians. The Senate has been sleeping on it. The House of Reps has not even concluded work.
Well, what have they got to say here, knowing that...
They actually suspended some
The Senate
aspects.
has concluded everything. But what does this
mean? They need to conclude their work because they suspended some work.
Does it change anything?
No, it's when they come for concurrence.
Yes.
Now, we have till the end of this month, February, if this Electoral Act will be used for the 2027 election, we have till, I think, February 27 or so, or 28, to get the Electoral Act signed. Because the Electoral Act 2022 prescribes that INEC must release the timetable for the next elections within 360 days before the end of the existing administration, which will be May 29, 2027. So, well, INEC is already saying that the 2027 elections are already in jeopardy.
Really?
But the Senate now says it has reduced the time for INEC to release the timetable from 360 days, I think, to 180 days. But that doesn't change anything. All those things they made for them to the issue of vote buying, they still kept it at 2 years, and increased the fine from 2 million to 5 million. You are not serious. You're not, okay, let them tell us how many people have been convicted for vote buying.
Well, we had off-cycle elections in a couple of months back. No one was even arrested.
You're talking about off-cycle.
In
Rivers State, a serving member of the House of Representatives was caught with money. Money. There was photographic evidence, there was video evidence, caught with money. Cash. Where is he? Was he prosecuted? And we can name many cases. Even a professor who was caught red-handed in electoral malpractice. What happened? Was he not freed later?
But looking at
he was convicted, but
yes,
later freed.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
you are talking of 2 years. What is 2 years? People tampering with the future of the nation, and you just want to give them a slap on the wrist. 2 years is actually, because 1 year in prison is 9 months. That's actually 18 months. And the person is of good behavior. The person can even get out earlier. So, who is deceiving who? But little things like petty theft, you will jail people for 10, 15 years with hard labor. But heinous crimes like vote buying, you say 2 years. Because it is these same politicians who actually use their proxies, their stooges, to engage in vote buying.
Well, this is not actually peculiar to us. Even the insurrection in the United States of America, one would have thought that the insurrectionists would go face lifetime.
And there's still enough time. Globally, globally, crime has no time limit.
So it can be revisited.
It can, yes. After all, the people who participated in the Holocaust, are they not still haunting them? True. When did the Holocaust take place? Many years ago, but they are still being haunted.
They're still being haunted.
They're
still alive.
Yes.
Still alive.
Yes. So, I mean, there's no expiry date to prosecute crime.
Beautiful. But let's take a look at, just before we wind down, let's take a look at the continuous voters registration, which is ongoing. With this recent information now from the Senate and the 10th Assembly, what do you think this could mean for Nigerians who have not gone to validate their status, and those who are new entrants into the voting process?
No, it's not all over the nation. It's in states where they have off-cycle elections. The full one will still come. It will come very soon. And the Senate rejected the suggestion that Nigerians could download voter cards from INEC's website, which would have been an innovation because electronic voting would have been easier. You can stay anywhere in the world and download your voter cards and participate in the elections. But now, you talk about the diaspora remittances, the money that Nigerians in the diaspora send home. You record it. It's helping our foreign reserves. But you deny them of the right to participate in the elections in your country. What do we call such actions?
And which would have been awesome if,
it's immoral.
If the e-voting system was allowed by the Senate.
Yes.
But how about Nigerians in Nigeria? Do you think this would in any way maybe dilute their interest for elections?
Of
course,
expect,
they would say their
expect a big boycott now. Expect a major boycott.
But that would be to the advantage of President Bola Tinubu and his people.
No problem. Let him enter. You see, let me tell you, it's one thing. It's one thing, like they say, to steal the village drum. It's another thing for you to. Where are you going to beat it? It is one thing to walk in easily because there was a boycott, right? Orchestrated by the National Assembly. What are you going to do with the power? 2023, you came in on a mandate, on a mandate that was marred by electoral malpractices. And then 2027, you still want to sustain. Let them go ahead. There's no problem. You see, let me tell you something. You remember military rule at the time was for 32 years. How many Nigerians remember? From 1966 to 1979 was how many years? There, 66 to 79 was 13 years, right? Then you had Buhari, 40 months. 83, 40 months. You had Babangida, was it not 8 years? 85 to 93, 8 years. Then you had Abacha, 5 years. So 8 plus 5, 13, plus the 13 before. By the time you calculate everything, does anybody remember that there used to be military dictators in this country? The answer is no. So, you see, for people who think they must force their way into power, I wish them all the best. But let me tell you something. History will vindicate Nigerians who say we must have credible election. You saw what happened even with the President of the Senate, Akpabio, how he became a candidate. How his predecessor, Ahmad Lawan, became a candidate. You saw all these things. And it is that same Electoral Act they want to use again for no problem. In fact, they should even tell them there's no need for any Electoral Act. Let them just proclaim Tinubu.
Yes.
Just stay there forever. But one day, it will come to an end. As sure as the sun will rise in the east tomorrow, it will come to an end. So, why don't people want to leave a worthy legacy instead of forcing their way into power and then start looking for legacies, start looking for things? Okay, what has Tinubu done? Somebody was telling me about Lagos by the Expressway. I say, how? Was it Tinubu built Lagos by the Expressway? He has continued what? Repair works that have put people in so much through so much stress. So come on, it's sad. It's
very,
sad,
very so sad. Very so sad. It's quite unfortunate that at a time like this, when the world is thinking of growing itself and creating a comfortable place for its people, China, even if they are slightly a communist country, they have found a way to package their own governance structure such that it's speaking to the generality of the Chinese people and creating millionaires every single day. In Nigeria, we have not been able to find out a solution, a theory that works for us. Rather, what we have is a devaluation of what we already have, which is not telling good on the generality of Nigerians. I just sincerely hope that we would not descend to a democratic process as practiced in Cameroon with Paul Biya, or the democratic process as practiced in Uganda by Museveni, who hopes to transition to his son the same structure that he has created for himself and the family and members. That is my hope for us in Nigeria. But I'd love to believe that Nigeria is a special case. Abacha tried it and did not work, and we just hope that Providence would help Nigeria this time around, especially at a time when Nigerians and the generality of Nigerians are not happy with what is happening under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the APC. That's our time for today. Thank you so very much, Emeka, for
Thank you very much.
And that's our best I would love to say thank you. Please do well to follow us. You can find us at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry. You could have yourself a splendid day, and I'll see you on another episode. Bye-bye.